So I was out of town for a couple of days. I went to Las Vegas with some friends of mine. We saw the When We Were Young Fest, basically partied all weekend as if we were still in college, even though we are definitely not. But all of that aside, which was a wonderful trip, a nice vacation, I didn't look at the news for 3 days, which was amazing. But on the flight home, right, I'm going from Las Vegas. I have a connecting flight in Atlanta, 4 hours and 15 minutes, that flight. And the man who sat next to me, this is why I want to tell you all this story, because I really think this is a showcase of how embedded conservative media is to the lives of the MAGA folk. So here's what happened, right? I'm on the plane. I turn it on to ESPN because we got some football games coming up because it's a later flight. And I've got my music going in my AirPods. Guy sits down next to me, and I kind of did a double take at first because honestly, I thought it was Brian Daboll, the head coach of the New York Giants, because he looked a lot like him, just a little bit thinner. But anyway, it wasn't him. He turns on his TV, and he puts it on Fox News. So I'm like, wonderful. This is going to be fun. It's one of these folks. And as if that wasn't bad enough, he then gets out his phone and he's sitting like way too close to me, holding his phone over to the side as if he wants me to see it. And I think he may have, and I'll get to that in a minute, but he's got his AirPods in, Fox News going, no volume, and he's scrolling through conservative videos on TikTok on his phone. So this guy, before the plane even takes off, is double fisting conservative media, right? He's watching Fox. He's listening to conservative influencers. He is just soaking it all in. And once the flight takes off and we get, TV, we get the internet back, he's doing the same thing. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to make this a teachable moment. I did not talk to the man at all. I never addressed him in any way. But I started taking notes. So I pulled out my phone and I wanted to not only document some of the things that he was personally doing, and it gets super weird, but I wanted to talk about some of the headlines I saw come across that Fox News screen. I did not want to watch this. I wanted to watch my game, but I had to because it was so insane. Just the constant drivel, the verifiable lies that I saw coming across the, Chiron on the bottom blew my mind. The stories they were even talking about. Absolute insanity. First and foremost, most of the shows that came on while I was, a captive audience for 3 hours were about the No King's Day protests over the weekend that, of course, turned into the largest mass protests in the history of the United States. Wildly successful. In fact, Saturday, the day of the protest, I was at the When We Were Young festival, and most of the bands at least addressed it saying No Kings, or they were wearing No Kings gear. I know All Time Low, Bad Religion, and The Offspring. They all did it. Blink-182. So it was just an amazing event surrounded by all these people who also, tens of thousands loving the No King stuff. But on Fox News, you didn't get that. Fox News, through multiple different shows, and again, I documented this, through multiple different shows, same talking point about the No King's Day protests, and showing about the same 4 or 5 clips on every different show. And it's this. This is what they said. Boomers took over. It was nothing but old people. They called it Grantifa. Like, grandma or grandpa and Antifa squished together, Grantifa. And again, 4 or 5 of the same clips on every single show. That's all the footage they had. And half of it wasn't even old people. It was actually young people younger than me. But they're trying to send this narrative to their overwhelmingly elderly audience that the only people that were out there were the elderly. Young people didn't care, even though we've got 2 clips of young people clearly caring about it. But that's not the only thing they talked about on Fox. They also, pull out my list here. They called it the Boomer Resistance. Then they had a segment on fighting narco-terrorists on all fronts, defending Donald Trump bombing the boats. They brought on a survivor of the Mao takeover to talk about how Donald Trump is, in fact, not a king and not a dictator at all, right? Um, they did a story on President Biden's mental decline on Fox News on Monday. A story on Biden's mental decline. Yeah. They had a segment on the Salesforce CEO caves to woke mob. They had multiple different stories on the person who assaulted Big Balls, kept showing the same clip on different shows of Jeanine Pirro. Democrat-run cities are a disaster was one of the things coming across the bottom. And they also had multiple different segments across several shows about some petty crimes like shoplifting. And it would show the same clip over and over, like a security camera footage that may have been 20 years old of somebody like putting something in their pocket, but they're trying to show the crime is out of control. It was insane. And that's just what was on Fox. My seatmate, again, with his phone, like almost like he is trying to show it to me. I couldn't look away. At one point, as he's watching Fox, listening to conservative influencers, and I don't mean to snoop, I'm not that guy, but at the same time, put a privacy screen on your phone, man. Like, seriously. So he pulls up ChatGPT, and he asks ChatGPT, who is funding the No Kings protest? He didn't Google it, right? He's not going to go and do research. Just ChatGPT, who is funding this? And I couldn't see the full response, but I did see the beginning. It's like, there is no funding available. But like, and he's getting mad because he wanted to see it. Because again, this is a guy that is so ingrained in it. He couldn't even function on a flight without having conservative media and two different outlets in his ears. Like, I have to be ensconced in conservative media because God forbid I take a few hours to not be indoctrinated. I honestly, like, I know tons of people on the left. I meet fans, I meet people, I see people that are hugely politically involved. I don't know any of them that ever are double fisting liberal media around the clock at every given opportunity. No, we have lives. We have other things we enjoy, but not these folks. And that's why it is so powerful for them. They are just nonstop. And that's why they believe these crazy, stupid, completely fact-free things that they believe is because they are consuming every waking hour. And that's why I wanted to tell this story. Not to make fun of this gentleman, although should, but to tell you just from this firsthand experience how ingrained the conservative media is for these people. They cannot function without it. And I know that because when we had about an hour left in the flight, we hit some rough turbulence and we actually lost our TVs and our Wi-Fi. So this guy had nothing. And he just sat there the rest of the flight like, I don't know what to do. Somebody, I need a conservative to yell in my ear and tell me what to think right now. He looked so confused. But prior to that happening, again, while he's holding his phone as if to show me, I look over at it and I see my face. I don't know if he did it intentionally. I don't know if he recognized me. I don't know what it was, but it was my face. It wasn't one of my videos because it wasn't, on this guy, but it was on TikTok. So somebody had taken one of my videos and stitched it in a conservative, like calling me out, I guess, and he's watching it. So at that point, when I see my face on his phone, knowing that he is just a nonstop consumer of conservative media, that's the point where I actually did start to get a little terrified. Not that obviously we're in the plane. I don't think he's got any weapons on him or whatever, but I don't trust that at that point. Like, then it became scary. But luckily nothing happened. He never talked to me. I never talked to him. The flight landed. We got out, went our separate ways. I went a little bit faster than he did, for obvious reasons, but it was a weird experience all around. And I wanted to share that with everybody. Certainly a great trip all around, and then super weird on that last little flight there. But the bottom line is these folks really are so ingrained into their conservative media. They cannot function without it. They don't know, they're not capable of independent thought. They can't do it. They have to have it 24/7. If they are awake, they are consuming conservative media. That is why it is so powerful. And that is why I do think for most of these people, like my unfortunate seatmate there, it is not even possible to deprogram some of these people without the help of actual mental health professionals. If you've ever wondered how scammers get your phone number or why your inbox is flooded with spam, this is how they do it. Companies called data brokers sell your data to anyone willing to pay for it. They do it without your consent, and they make billions selling it to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. And while they're legally required to remove your info if you ask, they make the process confusing and hard on purpose. That's why I recommend today's sponsor, Aura, to my family and friends. They take care of the hard part by automatically removing your info from these sites and keeping it off. Aura is all-in-one digital security. You may already have a digital security tool, but not having Aura is like locking the front door and leaving the back door open. You get alerts if your personal info is found on the dark web. They provide real-time fraud alerts for credit and banking. They have 24/7 monitoring to help keep your identity secure. They provide a secure VPN, antivirus, password manager, and so much more. And they have US-based support available around the clock if anything goes wrong. If anything does end up happening, Aura includes $5 million in identity theft insurance protection. And they have US fraud experts ready to help you 24/7. It's one app that provides every layer of protection. I don't want to leave myself vulnerable online, and you shouldn't either, and that's why I personally use Aura. Your personal data is collected by almost every single website you go to. Every shopping site you enter your information, it becomes the property of that company that then hands it to the brokers that then hand it to anyone. So protect yourself with Aura. Try it for yourself. You can go to aura.com/Farron to try 14 days for free. That's enough time for Aura to start scrubbing your personal info off these data broker sites without you lifting a finger.